Welcome to the introduction of the four-wheel drive productivity model. We'll be describing how to use this model as a full-fledged productivity system for students, solo entrepreneurs, and anybody really who wants to excel. Four-wheel drive was designed with a special emphasis for people with ADHD, on the autism spectrum, people that generally have a difficult time focusing, paying attention, managing their time correctly. So even though it was designed with individuals who have a specific problem managing time and staying focused for specific periods of time, again, this can be applied and used by anybody. 4WD is a science-driven productivity model, meaning it pulls from psychology, aspects of sociology. It utilizes several concepts from Scrum that are applicable to the solo entrepreneur versus the group dynamic sort of aspect that traditional Scrum is used for. It even includes aspects of CBT. So we'll go over some of that a little bit later, but let's move on. Everybody has behaviors that are repeated daily at about the same time. Waking up, going to bed, taking your kids to school, your meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, exercising. These are typically performed at or around the same time every day. We call these our anchors. Now these are important because these are the points around which four-wheel drive works. Now of course there are other anchor points that aren't as regular as our daily anchor points. These are doctor's visits, meetings at work, birthdays. These are blocks of times that are immovable, right? Our time is anchored to these events. So again, these are points around which 4WD works. Now, four-wheel drive is called four-wheel drive because it consists of four separate wheels. These aren't physical wheels, of course. These are repeating mini schedules that we will utilize in a certain order in order to maximize our productivity. Okay, now your first wheel is your input wheel. This is your self-education wheel. Okay, this is a time to listen to specific podcasts that talk about concepts that you are interested in learning more about. This is the time to take an online course or to read an article or dive into a book that has information that you want to learn. This is your input time. This is where you are building more information, you're gaining more information about a new skill that you would like to incorporate into whatever it is, whether it's family or work. And we'll talk about how we're going to break this up in a little bit, but this is your first wheel. It's input wheel. It's bringing stuff into your mind time. Now your second wheel is your processing wheel. This is your mental chewing wheel. This is where you take the information that you learned, or you have a problem that you would like to kind of churn out in your mind, or use a whiteboard to try to kind of figure things out. This is also a time to go over your goals. This is from a sprint perspective. This is a time to review kind of your sprint and how it's going, to look at your sprint goals. This is also a good time to do planning. Try to figure out how you're going to schedule your lists and your spokes. We're going to go over what those are for your wheels. This is also a good time to do some meditation and some self-analysis, to review how you've been interacting with people, how you've been, how your personal goals have been coming. Another thing that you might want to tackle during your processing wheel would be, kind of shuffling through some new design ideas for whatever project. So this is the time to do some, mental crunching, thinking through things, analyzing yourself, analyzing your work, your behaviors, looking at your goals, this sort of thing. We'll go over this in a little bit more detail again later. Okay, now your third on wheel is your output wheel. This is where you are just exercising your work, right? You are taking care of writing out your blog, you're working on an illustration, you're editing a video, you're doing your coding, whatever your work is, whatever you are doing for your work. This is the time to actually actualize that, to take it from your mind and bring it into the world, however you do that personally. Okay, now your off wheel is a little different from everything else. Your off wheel is, just a little bit of time that you take to make some phone calls, or if you work from home, do some house cleaning. Do your dishes, take care of some laundry, clean a portion of a room, organize a bookshelf. Okay, this is your off wheel. So it's also a good time to do kind of fix it up projects, take care of whatever, this, that, and the other. Just short little bursts of things that are going to help you feel like you're in a more organized environment, to help you feel like you've gotten things completed and done that need to get done at home or within your office or whatever your situation is. This is also not a bad time to do some stretching and exercising. Get in a little bit of time on your stationary bike, or doing some push-ups and sit-ups. Okay, so your off wheel is taking care of the little bits, right? The little things that aren't really related to your work, but that need to get done anyway. Quick note, I put meditation in here twice. I put it on the off wheel and on the processing wheel. The reason I did that is because for me personally, this is my personal practice, my off wheel meditation is a little different from my processing wheel meditation. When I do my processing wheel meditation, it is more introspective. It is more work-related, goal-related, a self-improvement sort of meditation, really trying to work things out within myself. My off-wheel meditation is an actual meditation practice. It's a collection of very specific meditation practices that I have been doing for a very long time, that it just helps me stay centered. It's strengthening my own mind. So for me, they're very different types of meditations, and they fit under both of these two wheels in very specific sorts of ways. It's really just up to how you want to regulate that. If you feel like meditation is more of an off wheel sort of a thing for you, just stick it in the off wheel. If you feel like it's more of a processing behavior that you do, go ahead and do it under your processing wheel. This is how we work around our anchor points. A lot of people that have, that work from home or have very kind of crazy schedules have a hard time figuring out how to work these things into all of the other anchor points in their life. So this is how this works. Your on wheels are on for 30 minutes. Your off wheel is 15 minutes. So you would start with your input wheel, 30-minute block. Now, there is a specific reason why we're doing 30, 15, 30, 15. The reason is, first of all, that it has been proven over and over and over again that our attention spans and our ability to really get into this is deep work related, actually. So you handle your 30 minutes, okay? So it's a mental. You're learning something. You're exercising that learning stuff. If you try to do that for too long, you're going to start losing your focus, and your mind's going to start wandering. So 30 minutes. Even if for your input wheel, you're taking an online course. If it's a 40-minute long lecture, stop after 30 minutes, because you will start to just kind of wander. Just bookmark that. You'll get back to it when you come back around to your input wheel again. 15 minutes, you get up, take care of dishes, do something else, do something productive around your office or your home or whatever. It gives you that mental rest while you're getting up and moving. Again, this is science-based, all right? You do not want to be sitting for too long. So if you sit while you work, this is perfect for you. The more you can get up and move around and do other things that don't require sitting, the healthier you are going to be. So 30 minutes input, okay? And then 15 minutes, get up and take care of things on your off wheel list. You come back for 30 minutes, do something processing. Now, again, this is scheduling, goal review, meditation, whatever, right? But thinking through things, trying to work things out. How can you better yourself? How can you take care of things more responsibly? How can you be more organized? Okay, this is your processing time. And that's done, right? You jump back onto your off wheel. Okay, so maybe if you did laundry, threw in some laundry the first 15 minutes, maybe this time you can go do some dishes. So you've got things that you can take care of, right? But which also act as a break. after every 30-minute stint, after every 30-minute wheel. Come back, do your output wheel. This is the time to really just crunch down and just, hammer out your work. Take care of what you've got to take care of, whatever your output is. If you're a coder, if you're a writer or a woodworker or whatever, okay, this is your time to just take care of your work. Go back to your 15 minutes, right? Your off list, your off wheel. Go do something productive that you need to get done. Make some phone calls, whatever the case is. Then you come back to your input wheel again. Now, keep in mind that this takes 2.5 hours to complete, which means out of 2.5 hours, you are only going to have 30 minutes of work output time. What's interesting is this is pretty close to how the office day goes, right? You spend half of your day in meetings, and then you're, taking care of whatever, right? So even though it feels like it's not a lot, there's a lot of things that make this very potent. There's a lot that makes this 30 minutes out of your 2.5 hours an extremely productive 30 minutes. Number one is, after you've gone through this a few times, after you've really worked this a couple times and kind of refined your wheels and your spokes, we're going to talk about spokes in a little bit and how they work, okay? You're going to realize it's going to become very clear that when that 30 minutes hits, it's only 30 minutes and you need to get something done. There's something about that just amplifies your productivity, that time limit. So this is a cycle, 30 on, 15 off, 30 on, 15 off, 30 on, 15. Okay. The process of educating yourself and then processing and then outputting, there's something about that also that amplifies your productivity. And the awesome thing here is that you can stop at any point for a doctor's visit, to pick your kids up, to deal with kids messing around, or somebody just got hurt and you need to run them to the ER or whatever. You can handle it, take care of all of your anchor points, all of your surprise anchors that need to happen right then and there that you weren't planning on, and then you can come right back to your wheel. But yeah, there's something about exercising your learning systems, exercising your problem-solving systems, and then outputting that just amplifies that ability to just get better work done. Now let's talk about the spokes. Each wheel should have anywhere from 1 to 4 spokes. Now what a spoke is a specific topic that you will be tackling for that wheel. Now I highly recommend that you are very careful with how many spokes you allow yourself to do. The more spokes you add, the longer it's going to take for you to get back around to that spoke, which is why I don't recommend having any wheel that has more than 4 spokes. Now, here is the paperwork. We're going to go over the paperwork really quick, and we're going to talk about how this works. For me personally, my input wheel has 3 spokes, which means that I have to cycle through, right, 3 times. That's 7.5 hours. Okay, that's about a day's work. Depending on how much time you have, really should dictate how many spokes you allow yourself to have. I used to have 4 spokes on 2 separate wheels and 3 on the other one. For me, it was a little too much, so I had to kind of consolidate my spokes. So what I mean by this is, for instance, for my input wheel, because I do a lot with mathematics, I do a lot with programming, I do a lot with psychology and sociology and thermodynamics. I mean, a lot of my work and my research is all over the place, literally. So I've got 1 spoke for math. I've got another spoke for self-education, which is, reading psychology papers, reading sociology papers, reading scientific publications, that sort of thing, taking courses. Okay, so I've got my math. I'm always doing math, so I'm always learning some new mathematics, whether it's reading a book or taking a course or watching a lecture online, whatever the case is. Math specifically is vital, is kind of like the thing that pins everything that I do together. So I have one spoke dedicated to mathematics. And then I have arts and graphics. Now, this is not a spoke I'm going to keep around for too long, but this is just brushing up or learning new aspects of a variety of programs I use. Blender, I use Blender a lot. There's a few things I want to brush up on, and there's a few new concepts I want to learn, including the new API, or not the new API, but the Python API for working directly with Blender. So I've got 3 spokes on my input wheel, okay, which means I have to go around 1, 2, 3 before I end back up on my first spoke. But you just go through your spokes in order, right? So math, personal, education, self-education, and then artwork, okay? So these are things I'm learning. These are the things I'm continually encouraging myself to learn. My processing wheel has 3 spokes on it. I've got an entire spoke dedicated to mind and meditation. This is also the spoke in which I kind of do my sprint review. I do my personal quote-unquote daily stand-up, right? If you know how Scrum works, I look at my goals. I look at things I want to improve on. Okay, so I've got one spoke specifically dedicated to mind and meditation, where I'm just analyzing myself. How am I doing? How am I doing with my work? How are my goals coming along? Okay, I have again a one single spoke dedicated to mathematics, where I just think through problems that I've been working on. I've got some kind of mathematical concepts that I've been playing around with, trying to kind of formulate how to really get them to work correctly. So this is my kind of math spoke time, my math processing time. And then I have one dedicated specifically to research, which is right where I am just internalizing the thinking and kind of plotting out my next steps for my research. Again, 3 spokes. It's a stretch. I really recommend most people stick with 1 to 2 spokes on each wheel. But if you have a lot going on, if you have a lot you're working on, and if you have a fair amount of time, be cautious, but go ahead and feel free to add a couple of spokes, okay? But I really don't recommend going over 4. In fact, you'll see on the paperwork in a second that I have really limited it to only 4 spokes per wheel. And then finally, my output wheel it consists of 4 spokes, which is I'm considering dropping it, trying to bring it down a little bit to 2 or 3. But just so you know, I've got my video editing spoke, which is because I do a lot of videos, right? So this is writing scripts. This is actually doing the filming, the production, the editing, okay, from start to finish to uploading it. Again, this is 30 minutes, but if you do it right, you can get a lot done in 30 minutes. I do art. Okay, I've got a series of comics that I'm working on, and music and guitar. I think this may be the one I might end up dropping and just doing music and guitar at the end of the day. And then of course I've got my coding and work on my AI models. So again, this takes 3 full rotations or 4 full rotations to get through all of them, which means I probably typically only get about 30 minutes per spoke per day. Some of this I can't help because it is just how my life is. It is just how things are set up and the things that I am trying to just hammer out and get done and take care of. So I really encourage you to really think through this very carefully before you load up all 4 spokes on all 4 wheels. It can get pretty out of hand pretty quickly. Maybe just start off with 1 spoke per wheel, and then if you feel like you need to split a wheel up into 2 spokes, go for it. If that's still not enough and you need to add a 3rd spoke in one of the wheels, go for it. Okay, another thing I would really like to stress is how to, 1, get started. A lot of us with ADHD and tendencies to procrastinate have a hard time with this. So I recommend after your morning ritual's done, right, after you get up, brush your teeth, take a shower, exercise, whatever it is that you do, get your kids to school, get back home, and you've got a couple of hours before lunchtime, instead of sitting down and watching YouTube videos, just make it a point that videos, any sort of podcast, right, any sort of that thing, I mean, there's room for that sort of thing on your spokes. Everything has a place, right? Now, you don't want to make an area on your spokes to sit down and watch a movie. That's not very productive, and it's going to get you distracted and sucked in. So I recommend just telling yourself no social media, no movies, nothing like that until the end of the day. Okay? Unless it is something educational that you've got cycled in with your input wheel. Second thing, after done with your morning schedule, okay, just know I also recommend including checking and responding to email at the end of your morning schedule. Okay, so you sit down, open your email, read everything that needs to be read, throw everything else away, respond to the stuff that you need to respond to, and then close it. And you will not check your email again until the next day. This sounds weird, right? But trust me, you really only need to respond to very few things per day. And if somebody's, hounding you, sending you email after email, just let them know that I have decided to not respond to, every email that everybody sends. I have, I'm crunched for time. I have a very specific program that I am running. And I'm not going to sit here and distract myself with emails or social media or anything else. I have hardly spent any time on Facebook or Twitter or anything since I have been doing my wheels. It's a mix between knowing how much time you have left. Okay? You're on your 30-minute wheel, you're on your 15-minute wheel, 30-minute wheel, 15-minute wheel. It's knowing that you have a specific amount of time for a specific task, okay, and that is it. And if you've got your spokes filled up, that's it for that day. So you really want to get shit done, okay? Okay, I recommend getting a timer like this, where you have specific kind of times. All you have to do is turn it one way or the other, and whatever is facing up, the timer starts immediately. This is fantastic. It has a 15 and a 30 on this side. So it's got 30 minutes and 15 minutes. All I have to do is just back and forth, right? 30 minutes for a wheel, 15 minutes for my off wheel, 30 minutes for, my next wheel, 15 minutes for my off wheel. Works fantastically, because when you see it right there, right, your mind knows that that's all the time you've got. So you just need to take care of it as quickly as possible. Okay, so get a timer that you can utilize by switching different sides up. There's cubes that do this as well, right? Cube timers with, a different amount of time on each of the spaces. Whatever you choose to do, as long as you can see how much time you have left, and you can just quickly, turn it one way or the other to get that timer going. It's a very rhythmic kind of, once the timer goes off, you switch it to the next, okay? And you're on your 15-minute off wheel. Once it goes off, you switch to the next, you're on your 30-minute off, or your next 30-minute wheel, okay? It's very effective in keeping you mentally on track. So just make it a thing that as soon as you sit down at your desk or you get to your workstation or whatever, you hammer out your emails really quick and you hit your timer. In fact, if you want to, you might even, for the first wheel of the day, just get it going and include your emails in that first wheel, so you've got to rip through those emails, because the more time you spend on that less time that you have to finish whatever that specific wheel is. There's all sorts of tricks, right? Okay, so let's go through the paperwork really quickly, because I've only got about 15 minutes left. So you see up in the corner here, we're talking about wheels, all right? you'll see down the left column, there's I, P, 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 O, 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 O. That's input, process, output. I included 4 lines, so you can have up to 4 spokes per wheel. Again, I don't recommend doing that. I just recommend really consolidating your spokes and only doing as many spokes as you absolutely need to, with 4 being the absolute maximum. Do not go over 4, or you're just going to end up wasting time. So you write down whatever your spoke is, and then your spoke tallies section right here to the right is, once you complete a spoke, you just mark it off. Okay, these are your on wheels. All right, your off wheel is a different list. It comes down here. If we go down here, you see off wheel to-do list and off wheel calling list or contact list. I have found that the to-do list feels a little different than to call list, right? People that need to be called, if you need to schedule an appointment or call somebody and talk about whatever. Okay, I personally think that your contact list and your to-do list feel different enough that I separate them, because contacting lists is usually more important. People that you need to contact or call for whatever reason is just more important. Now, your to-do list, right? Obviously, you have your things that you cycle through on your off wheel, like your laundry and your dishes and cleaning and whatever, whatever it is. But this is also where you add, things that just need to be done. Run to the wherever and grab this, whatever, to-do list stuff that needs to get done around the house, like fix it up stuff, whatever. All right, I've got a whole section for notes, because if I know me, then I know you. If you have ADHD or if you are on the spectrum somewhere, having stuff, ruminating about shit and letting it take over your mind. If you have something that's bothering you, write it down. Take care of it later when you have time to take care of it. Okay? Think about it later when you have time to think about it. Also, people like us, right, that are on the spectrum and are neurodivergent, tend to have a lot of ideas and thoughts. This is the place to write it down. Just blot it all down here. Make sure you keep it nice, because this is one sprint's worth of stuff. But there you go. Okay, and we're going to go back up to the top again, and you'll see project. Okay, whatever your main project is that you're currently working on, write it down on the top. The week number is for whatever the week number is of the year. Okay, so 1 to 52. Okay, sprint is for that particular sprint and or project. Okay, so if your project is, whatever project name, okay, then sprint number 1 for that project. Okay, how many sprints does it take to complete that project? Well, you won't know until you're done, but that's kind of how that works. Okay, sprint number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until that project is complete. You've got your goal tracking. So you've got your main sprint goal, okay, and then other goals, little personal goals. Don't get distracted this week doing whatever. Don't do this. Don't do that. Cut down on whatever. Run for an extra mile every day. Whatever your personal goals are. And then we've got the burn down chart, or this is actually a burn up chart. Burn chart, you can use it as a burn down or a burn up, whatever you like. If you don't know what a burn down chart is, look it up. I don't think I'm going to have time in this video to really talk about that, but you'll see the epsilon sign, okay, up at the top, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This helps you track what you've gotten done. You'll see after burn, it says squares, 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64. These are actual mathematical squares, like squares, right? Your square numbers, okay? The reason these square numbers are here is so that you can quickly take a glance and see them and kind of assign a difficulty rating to whatever items you have in your backlog. Again, if you're not familiar with how Sprint works, there are plenty of videos that describe it really well. So over here you've got your area for your Sprint backlog, okay, and each item in your Sprint backlog needs to be assigned a kind of like a weight or a difficulty rating. So that's what your squares are for. The 1 through 144 is really difficulty rating of that small story, of that small thing that you need to do. Okay? So I'm not going to really go into detail on this stuff. If you don't know, again, what it is, go ahead and look at a couple videos on how Scrum works and how sprints work. So I think that is about that for this. Make sure you use a little bit of off-wheel time to keep your workspace organized. Again, for us, for people with ADHD, right? People that are on the spectrum, sometimes, depending on where you are in the spectrum and what your dispositions are, sometimes have a fair amount of difficulty staying organized. Use off-wheel time to do that. So it is a regular occurrence. It's something you do regularly, and just take care of a little bit of organization every day. All right, so that is that. This is kind of the fundamental layout of the four-wheel drive or 4WD system. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the video comment section. And as this methodology kind of inflates and becomes more a finer tuned machine, I will continue to put more and more videos up. All right, that is about all the time that I have today. So thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next video, whatever that may be. Take care.